What's up, guys? Another evening, really another live episode. I'm James Haskell or Haskell, as I've been donned by my co-host Glenn Martin since the time I was a child. Really excited for another episode here at 410 Sports Talk. As always, myself and Glenn Martin and DK on the sticks, controlling it all in the background. Mm-hmm. Usually on the sticks, it means video game playing, right?
Yeah, it does.
But we're going to say Daniel's on the sticks either way. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm really excited to get into it. But Glenn, I think as you know, per usual, we'll start with just some general news around the NFL. And the news that is swirling is the news, of course, that we've reported on, and that has to do with Julio Jones. And I have heard, and I think it's, rightly so, you brought up right before we went live, we're not sure the validity of it, but have heard that the Falcons have received an offer for a first rounder. Mm-hmm. So where are you in the Julio saga, as far as your belief in that and overall your feelings towards him as a trade option and then the potential of him coming to the Ravens? But where are you at in the Julio saga as it stands?
Yeah, I see Diana Rossini from ESPN is the one who tweeted out that they've received several offers, including one involving a first-round pick, and that the sense around the league is that he's going to be dealt next week or as early as next week. Well, you kind of got to take all these reporting with a little bit of a grain of salt here, because, of course, if they put out there and it's believed that they're getting an offer of a first-round pick from one team, then the thought is that maybe other teams will join in and you can start a bidding war, which, obviously raise the value. So I'm not so sure if it's reliable. I'm not saying that Diana's wrong in her reporting or that her sources are incorrect. I'm just saying you have to kind of take these with a little bit of skepticism there. Because we're just not sure if that's just the GM trying to drum up more interest and higher trade value, or if in fact there is a team willing to offer a first-round pick. I don't think it's completely outside of the realm of possibility that a team would be willing to give that up. It would have to be the perfect team, a team that's feels like they're on the cusp, a team that has plenty of cap space, available for them, not just this year but going forward, and also a team that doesn't have a ton of expiring rookie contracts that they're looking to extend long-term in the coming years. So it would have to be that perfect team. She also added that the Tennessee Titans have been involved in talks, but right now
seems like a long shot, right?
Yeah, that's a long shot. So I'm not sure who that team was, because he made it clear he's only going to go to a winner. He really only wants to go to a winner. And you look around the league at, the winners out there, the teams that can win and their cap space, and it's going to be interesting to see which team is the one that's. I think ultimately he does get moved. First round pick, though, I'm not so sure about that. It wouldn't shock me, but also I'm not sold that it's definitely going to be a first rounder.
Yeah, and wasn't if I'm not mistaken, weren't the details of Carson Wentz's deal, wasn't it a conditional first? So couldn't they do something to where under certain stipulations it could be moved up to? I can see something like that on a long shot happening where it's a guaranteed second under certain conditions. Mm-hmm. It could be a first, but that's as far as I see it going. Like you said, I don't know how I feel about the reporting, and it's her job just to, report on the information that's given to her by her valid sources. Like you said, it's not to discredit her reporting or anything like that, but obviously people will do this to pump up the market, just like the stock market or, crypto, because of 2021, all that stuff, mm-hmm. right? They're playing the same games. And so we totally get it. But where I'm happy to see that the Titans are a long shot, baby.
Yeah, that's the one team I don't want becoming, Julio becoming a member of. Absolutely.
Yeah, no. So where are you right now as far as, who do you see? And it's more gut than anything. Who do you see as front runners? And DK, who you see as a dark horse? Put it down on the banner. We'd like to know. But Glenn, who do you see as your team? You think it's the Patriots?
If I had to put my money on any team, it's the Patriots, and it's because Bill is not used to losing, and I
think he spends recklessly too.
He does, and he can be a little loose with the pockets when it comes to free agency. He's had some stinkers in the past here. I'm not saying that this would be, but I could see him making a move that he feels could thrust him into playoff contention. I don't think even with that move that they're a Super Bowl contender. I think you might feel a little stronger about them than I do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Mac Jones is a wait and see there, and I'm not sure if Cam Newton, at this point in his career, can get a team to the championship. But there's no doubt Julio Jones being added to the mix will be a huge boost to the roster, but also just the confidence level of everybody in that room. So I think that it's certainly possible. And if I had to put my money on one team, I think it would be them. I don't know how happy Julio would be once he got there, because they are the definition of the no fun league over in New England, and Bill Belichick, just doesn't scream like a coach that would, necessarily let you have a whole ton of fun. But if Cam Newton can make it there and have success and be willing to re-sign, then I think anyone can, because I don't think there's anyone who has more fun when they're playing well than Cam Newton. So I would have to put my bet on the New England Patriots. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same place as you. However, I do think that Julio would enjoy playing for Belichick, because Belichick and Saban are of the same ilk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I think he really enjoyed his time at Alabama, and I think that he would experience a lot of that, that same type of environment up in New England. And I would bet that Cam Newton is a really fun guy to play for if he's your quarterback. I would bet, like, as far as being a good teammate, a great leader. Obviously, like, we saw his schedule last year. Even Julian Edelman talked about how hard of a worker he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be easy to play with, right?
I
can't imagine him being like too difficult.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, it's going to be.
But
really
he's not
interesting.
the type of player. It's a big difference between him and Matt Ryan as far as their type of player.
Definitely, stylistically,
right?
Totally different. Where
Yeah.
Cam can, similar to Lamar, like, he could get it done on his own on the ground, different ways, but he could keep it. Where Matt Ryan is
plus he's
moving.
about timing, precision.
Right.
I don't know if Cam's really about that,
Right.
but they could still make it work. DK agrees. He thinks it's going to be the Patriots right now.
That's 1-0 you so far tonight, Glenn. It's early yet.
Well, you agreed, so I mean, it's not like
That's
you
true.
were on a different wavelength.
But are there any
there.
dark horses out there? So if the Patriots are the front runners, are there any dark horses out there? Like, do you consider the Ravens a dark horse?
I think at this point, I would consider them a dark horse. But they are, I think, the 7th as far as the odds go.
Right?
Yeah, I guess it would have to. I'm hoping that they can somehow keep them in the NFC, but I just don't see that ending up being the case. So I think ultimately it's going to be an AFC team, and then you have to start looking at all the top teams at, near the top of the list. And here's what I'm hoping for. I think that the Niners are a possibility, because look, Julio Jones had a fantastic year with pretty much everyone, but he had a really good year with Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. Obviously,
Yep.
Matt Ryan won the MVP. They went to the Super Bowl. So I would not be surprised at all to see him go to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that would be a nice match with them. They obviously they have some good young guys there with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, but there's no doubt that they could use a player like Julio Jones. I mean, of course, who couldn't? So I think they're certainly a possibility. As far as in the AFC, I mean, I think it's the Patriots, it's the Titans, it's the Colts. So I guess as a dark horse, I'd have to say the Colts would be a dark horse, because if they're looking at trying to revitalize the career of Carson Wentz, why not get a bona fide Hall of Fame receiver to help you do so? And a guy that also is pretty dominant as far as a run blocker, and they have a pretty darn good run game going there. So I think that would be my dark horse AFC team, the Colts, and then in the NFC, I'd be looking for the Niners. Yeah,
I think that's a great point. Man, I'm never this way. Literally, I think I'm cautiously optimistic that I think Eric DeCosta, this could be his moment. Like, this could be one of his moment where he stakes his claim, makes a move, and so. Man, I think the Ravens' odds are better than 7th. I think the Ravens' odds are better than the Colts' odds in getting something done. So, man, it's going to be interesting for sure. I could definitely see the Niners in the NFC as well, because Shanahan and oh my gosh, the safety, Lynch, they're aggressive, creative, and think outside the box. So I could see that getting done as well.
And Trey Lance, I mean, you trade all them picks to get a young guy, you better surround him with some good weapons.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to shift gears and talk about our squad, the Baltimore Ravens. But before we get into that, one thing I just want to mention is that I put it out on our Patreon. I tweeted it out last night, put it out on Facebook as well. But just so you guys, in case you didn't know, it's official. The first rendition of 410 Sports Talk swag is out there. Glenn and I are going to be rocking it soon. I know a decent amount of you guys have already gone out there and purchased it. I'm gonna leave the link for it in the chat. You guys go check it out. You know, if you're interested in it, certainly, you know, go ahead and there it is right there. So that's the front of it. Now, DK, can you show them the back? Because I'm really proud of it. I'm love talking Ravens talk. Don from our guy Lamar Jackson.
That's right. That's what we do.
That's right. So I just put it in the chat. I'll do it a couple times throughout the show, but I just wanted to mention that I can't wait to get mine. I think Glenn and DK, you guys would say the same. Can't wait to get yours as well. But certainly hope you guys enjoy it as your part. You know, the reason that we do what we do, and we have a blast doing it. So just wanted to put that out there as well. But there'll be more, certainly, because there's a lot of sayings that come up in the show. We're going to have to make a McBanger shirt one of these days.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all kinds of stuff. We got all kinds of creative stuff we can do. But anyway, none of that, or enough of that. Let's get into OTAs. You want to start with the pressers, or you want to start with your first impressions? Where you want to start, Glenn?
Yeah, well, first thing I want to talk about is, you know, the thing that we've been talking about for years now, Jimbo, and it's got me real excited that it's finally, I think it's coming to fruition. Bradley Bozeman has now officially been named the starter at center by John Harbaugh, and I'm hyped for this because I feel like as good as he was at left guard, he's an even better center, and I think he's going to get a chance to show that. And, you know, I want to bring back to a comment that we saw when we were first signing on. Dewan 100 says he thinks Bozeman's going to the Pro Bowl. He says book it. And you know what? I have a hard time disagreeing with him. I mean, I feel like his size, his strength, the fact that John says he's making all the calls on the line and it's coming natural to him, just like he never stopped playing the position. I think he's got an opportunity to make the Pro Bowl at the center spot. I mean, this guy's big. He's strong. He knows the system. You know, he's a vet in the league now at this point. He's looking to get that extra, that long-term contract here as a Raven. So, man, I'm really pumped to see Bozeman finally getting a good crack at it. And it's also encouraging to hear that Harbaugh has already named him the starter. He's seen enough. This isn't something where, well, we're going to see what happens throughout camp. There's going to be competition. No. He says, Bradley Bozeman's our center going forward, and we'll stick to that unless something changes. So, I'm excited. What are your thoughts on Bozeman finally getting a crack at it?
You know, it's like, you know, Moses was lost in the desert for 40 years, right? I mean, 40 years he's circling the promised land.
Somebody needs to get him some MapQuest.
That's what I'm saying. That's what, well, it's based on their anyway, different story. But
yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
The point is that finally, the Ravens have been circling the promised land that is Bradley Bozeman, you know, locking it down at center, and they finally got it right. Finally, he has the opportunity, I think, to improve his value as a football player because I'm sure that's where he feels most comfortable. And it's also telling that, like you said, John wasn't ambiguous. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He wasn't dodging any questions. Look, this is our guy at center. This is who we're going with. That just speaks to the confidence that they have in as John called him, in Brad. And I mean, I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, but don't you think he's already probably one of the biggest centers in the league?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. He's a big guy.
He's 6'5", 320. I feel like that's a huge center.
That's a big center. I mean, typically you can be a little bit undersized there, but he's definitely not undersized. I mean, I'd have to look at a list to see exactly how he stacks up, and I'm sure he's on the bigger side of centers. But look, as Troy pointed out, if, at the very least, even if he couldn't make the calls, you know, this is all icing on the cake because, as Troy points out, we just want good snaps. That's what we want. We want snaps that Lamar's not reaching here, reaching there, you know, bumbling with him, because by the time he gets a hold of it, he's looking for the pass rush, and yeah, we can't have that. So as long as he gets that down, which it sounds like John Harbaugh said he's doing just fine, I'm excited, and I do think that he has a very good shot at making the Pro Bowl, earning his first Pro Bowl bid at a new position, at least in the league.
And you know what? This is really random. Speaking of O-line, I just saw a picture, if I'm not mistaken, Orlando Brown is donning number 57.
Is he really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a picture on Twitter right now.
Good riddance. Good. 57. Bart Scott's number?
Yeah, like it
hold on. Bartram?
Bartram. Can't wait.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, okay. That's odd. That's odd. These numbers are going to take some getting used to. And really, I didn't realize quite, all Hollywood had to do was wait until next season. He could have gotten number 5 for free. He said, no. You never know what could happen over a long season. I want number 5 now. And he spent, how much was it, like 70,000 in order
I think it was 270,000 or something stupid like that.
DK, if you could find out the number that Hollywood spent to get number 5, because that is absolutely insane to me. I get that things could happen. He could have a, God forsaken, a career-ending injury. But, man, that's a lot of pocket change. And we hear about athletes, not necessarily using the best judgment with their money and end up running out of it shortly after their playing career ends. Not to say that this is going to happen, but, man, that's a big chunk of change that, I mean, you gave me $200,000. I could make that last for a couple years now. So, man, that is just that's a little bit.
Well, he dropped a couple hundo on the 5 tattoo on the shoulder too. Speaking of which, dude is tatted. I mean,
tatted. Yeah,
dude, he went from nothing to chest tats, sleeves. I mean, maybe not full sleeves, right? I think one arm is anyway. It's got to be what in the double digits at this point, unless they're all one big tattoo. I was shocked. I didn't realize it was all that.
Yeah, and there's one thing about tattoos. It's a lot like plastic surgery. You get what you pay for. So if you typically, unless you know someone and they're really generous with their time, if you pay cheap, you're going to get a cheap looking tattoo. So I'm sure he's not doing that. So he's probably spending quite a few dollars to get quality tattoo work done. And yeah, that's not cheap either, but that's not, adding up to the hundreds of thousands.
No, right.
Right.
I was just adding that sum because he's got the 5 on his shoulder now too. I was like, man, he's committed to this number.
Yeah, that number.
I mean,
yeah,
he's committed to 5. I'll tell you what. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I kind of threw us off there with the Orlando Brown number, and that's still weird to me. And it's funny when I think of 57, I also think of OJ Brigance, right?
True. Yeah.
And then I even think of CJ Mosley.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be. I wonder how that conversation would go if they were both still here. I don't think he'd be getting 57. But I want to talk about some notable absences here and get it. And I want to shoot you a question.
But overall, though, before we wrap it up with Brad, Brad, excited, can't wait to see it.
Hyped. And not only
any concerns.
No concerns whatsoever, because if he can, the way he's played left guard has shown me that he played left guard at a very high level, and we know what he did at Alabama. So as long as he doesn't start getting the yips with the snaps, I have zero concerns there. I think he's going to be a massive upgrade from what we've had there in the last few years. And really a guy that we haven't had a guy like him since Jensen walked out the door, which is one of the free agents that we let walk that really hurt. Him and Zadarius Smith are the two that really hurt me. And CJ Mosley to a degree, but I understand when you're paying him buku money like the Jets did, I understand why he leaves. And obviously his injuries since then have lessened the impact of the blow there of him leaving. But and what also it does is what I'm seeing also is that Ben Cleveland is expected to now slide right in at left guard. Now, they're saying that it's a healthy competition. They got Powers. They got Bredesen. They got this. They got that. But all indications are he's getting heavy first-team work when the start of training camp comes, and he's the leader in the clubhouse right now. So it seems like his job to lose. Are you confident? Like, does that worry you at all that they're already kind of – I mean, maybe they're just force feeding him because they want to see if he can handle it. And if he can't, then they'll tone it back and they'll slide Ben Powers in. But how's your feeling on the perspective that Ben Cleveland is right now the left guard?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about it because I think he's a different prospect. And Brooks, the guy that we had on the show from Dogs Daily down in Georgia, which gave us great insight. He's a former offensive lineman himself, and then obviously reports on the Georgia Bulldogs. One of the things he talked about is that he was a 6-year player or a 6-year attendee at college, right? So he played his full time, had the scholarship and then won. He stayed a 6-year, and so his floor. He's already kind of at his floor or his floor is already high. Like as a player, we know what that is. Now his ceiling might not be crazy high, but his floor is really high as a rookie coming out. So I feel like if this were a Tyree Phillips or think about a redshirt sophomore or something like that that's only been in college for 3 true years, I would be more concerned. But I'm less concerned about the position change and also about what the Ravens are going to ask him to do. I like the way that Brooks described it. He's a linear athlete. He's going to excel at going forward and backward. And that's what the Ravens are going to do. They're going to say, look, move the man in front of you.
Yep.
You know, they're not
scheme-wise, he couldn't have found a better scheme, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's a match made in heaven. And I know that, like we saw, John is super excited. So I was a little nervous about it at first. I'm not, though. I feel really good about what they're going to ask him to do and his development as a player, in that he's already taken the 6 years in college to really develop as a lineman in general, physically, mentally, and all the above. So no concerns there. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. I think that right now it's good to just see what he can handle. Give him a lot, see what he can handle. I know he did have some academic issues back at Georgia, but it seemed like those issues stayed in the classroom and in the academic classroom and didn't really stretch over to the football field. It seemed like on the football field he had a very good understanding of the offense, and that wasn't the issue. It was just the classroom stuff. So hopefully he can absorb the playbook quickly and get on the field. Because I mean, it was funny when I was watching the quick little video that they put out. As big as that guy is, they had him next to Alejandro Villanueva, and Alejandro still
so tall
makes everyone look short. It's so crazy how big that guy is, and he looked good at right tackle. I saw him in there early, which was really cool to see because we didn't see a lot of the slobber knockers. That tends to be the guys that skip this camp because there's no contact allowed. And that's where I wanted to go next because I have a list. Shout out to Jamison Hensley of ESPN because I did steal this list from his Twitter account, which I'm sure he doesn't mind. And notable absences for the Ravens on Wednesday's OTA were tight end Mark Andrews, defensive end Calais Campbell, cornerbacks Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith, wide receiver Sammy Watkins, and then all the big boys, nose tackle Brandon Williams, defensive end Derek Wolfe, guard Kevin Zeitler, and then Stanley and Ricard missed due to injury as they continue to recover back from their injuries. But I mentioned that Alejandro's there at right tackle. He's transitioning to a new position and a new offense, while Zeitler is transitioning not to a new position, but a completely new offense. Are you at all concerned about him not being there for these OTAs?
Nah. I mean, this is only phase 2. Right. So once we get into phase 3, I would guess that he's probably going to be there, even though some of that phase 3, if I'm not mistaken, I understand it correctly, it's still technically voluntary. Not all of it, but certainly there's a voluntary portion of it. I wouldn't be surprised if he's there. I'm also not surprised about Mark Andrews because I'm not mistaken. This is what he did last year too. He has a pretty legit regimen going out in Arizona. And I think he's okay with that. He's comfortable with that. And I think that's okay with me as well. Like, it's obviously physically working for him. He's performing on the field, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in phase 3. But I was also going to bring up, just kind of what you mentioned and feeding off of what you said is that Bozeman, if I'm not mistaken, is in a contract year, right?
Yeah.
Nice to see him out there because a lot of guys will sit.
Yeah.
Nice to see him out there. Alejandro is a vet. Great. It's great to see him out there getting to work. I think overall this team, and Hollywood mentioned in his interview, seems extremely committed at this point to forging relationships as a unit, as a team, thinking and acting as one, and really doing something special. So no, I mean, I'm not super concerned right now about Zeitler. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't worry me too much. Sure, I would have liked to see him there, though. I mean, it would have been nice to see him there, but it's not like a big deal to me. I think that these guys are. Until the contact happens, you really don't get a lot out of these practices. But at the same time, it would have been nice to see him in there learning, since he is learning a completely new offense. But I'm sure a lot of the concepts are something he's similar with in the past, something he's seen before. So it shouldn't be too much of a learning curve for a guy with this type of tenure in the league. But still, I would have liked to see him there. I understand. I have no problem with Brandon Williams missing, no problem with Calais Campbell missing. And no problem with Derek Wolfe. That's obviously no problem there. But yeah, I have a slight issue with Zeitler, but it's not a deal breaker for me.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. There's the list there. So somebody mentioned that they saw Jimmy. Jimmy was there, I think, day 1, but he missed day 2. Yeah. If I remember correctly, because I did see him running out on the field on one of those days. But Jamison's usually pretty good, so I'm going to trust his count there.
Now. The other thing I want to mention is somebody said in the chat they saw Mark Andrews shotgun and a beer on Instagram in Arizona, and that might be the case, but I don't really know much about type 1 diabetes, but I don't think you can drink too much.
Yeah,
And I
there's a
know
lot of
he's
sugar in that. Yeah.
and it will and I don't know exactly what it does when it comes to type 1 diabetes, but I know he's really vigilant when it comes to his diabetes. Like, he is on it. His dad's a doctor. So I don't think he's out there drinking too much.
Yeah,
So,
but he's a young guy, and you can indulge, I think, a
yeah, I'm
little
not too
bit.
worried
So,
about it. I
yeah,
mean,
no, I
look,
think
he's
he's
getting
having a
his
good
job
time.
done. Every single year, he's looked better and better from a physical standpoint.
Oh, this
He
guy,
was shotgunning way more beers in college in Oklahoma. I can guarantee that, hanging out with Baker Mayfield.
yeah, you're probably right, but he looked absolutely shredded last time I saw him. I had no idea he was quite that shredded up. I mean, when you have the side abs, then you're doing something. So shout out to him. Yeah, no worries there. And a couple other notes from Jameson during the camp. He says that Miles Boykin and Eli Wolf were standouts. This is something we've seen before, Jimbo. Maybe not for Eli Wolf, which I'm excited to hear about that, because I think we could add some pass catching to the room, if whether it be Oliver, Wolf, or who's the young guy out of Oregon who broke his leg?
Jake
Breeland. Yep.
Breeland. Boykin just needs to join the room already.
I think he should too, but it doesn't look like John's ready to make him a tight end full time. He's just going to let him do a couple tight end things, but not make him a full time tight end. But Miles Boykin once again is impressing in camp. Does this do anything to change your thoughts on whether or not he's going to end up making the roster, or is this the same old Boykin to you?
This is a tough one. I don't know where I stand, Glenn. I really don't, because part of me, the optimistic side of me, wants to say it does something for me, because John brought up a good point. So, like, he's excited to see our year 3 guys, because they didn't have a mini camp in between their first and second year. They didn't have any offseason stuff between their first and second year. So now he's expecting him to make that jump. And I can understand that logic, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, this will be Boykin's 3rd year. Mm-hmm. Right. And so this would be the year where he'd have an opportunity to, make that jump. So I can get on board with that for a while, but he's got a real uphill climb still in my mind to get on the field and get some passes thrown his way. So I guess that's where I stand.
Yeah, nothing. OTAs does nothing for me. He already got me once. Okay, when I went to training camp 2 years ago, he got me.
I remember, because I came to your house. I think it was that same day, and you were like talking about Boykin, dude.
I was so hyped. He looked so good. But I think when the lights are brightest and the competitive nature is, the competitive juices are flowing, and you got a guy that's playing for his livelihood standing across from you, I'm sorry, but I think he shrinks. I think he shrinks down, and the lights are just too bright. The moment is just too big. Now, look, I'm rooting for the guy to prove me wrong. Believe me, we both are. We want him to prove us wrong in a big way and show out, and we'll be waving the Boykin flag. But I just don't see it happening. And so, yeah, I think he's, despite the fact that he's got a clear-cut edge being a 3rd-round draft pick in recent history, I still think he's got an uphill climb to make this team. I mean, it's just too much competition there. And then if you bring Julio in, he's definitely out the door. No chance. But even without Julio, I just think it's a crowded room. And unless they're willing, now it's possible that they could bust the trend that they've done as of late. I can't remember the last time they broke camp with 7 receivers. But I guess it's reasonably possible, because we expect them to only keep 2 quarterbacks this year, whereas in recent years they've kept 3. And they could go lighter at running back than they have recently, where they've gone 4 running backs. And I think it's possible they could leave camp with just 3 running backs. Although on a running team, you might want to, unless you think you can sneak one through to the practice squad, you might want to carry 4. But who knows how that goes? But ultimately, I think it's an uphill climb for him. But he needs to show out in preseason. That's the only thing that'll move the needle for me, is if he does it against another guy standing across from him that's fighting for his job on an opposing team, then I'll start to maybe go towards maybe he's got a shot. But other than that, I love Living Legend. He calls him Inches Boykin instead of Miles Boykin. That's good. That's good, Living Legend. I like that. Man,
that might be shirt worthy. No, we can't troll him like that, right?
Inches Boykin. That's good. That's creative. No, I just don't see it. Look, you can't, as much training as you give a guy, it's hard to teach the instincts of attacking the ball at its highest point. And I just don't know if you can all of a sudden make a guy do that. It just seems like something either you're born with or you're not. So yeah, I think Miles Boykin still has an uphill climb. Now, another note that I think will be interesting to hear from you and your opinion on. Apparently, your boy Jalen Ferguson is in great shape this camp. He's looking real good. However, he did commit some mental errors, is what the note says from Jameson. So, does the fact that, because you've commented that he had a little thickness around the midsection, a little baby fat still on him, does it affect you at all hearing that he's at least in great physical shape?
No, not if you pair it with that. Look, I'll believe he's in great physical shape when he is no longer the only edge defender with literally his arms. You can't see the bicep, you can't see the tricep. It's just an arm. Sure, you can be a runner and do that. That's fine. You're literally an edge defender. You have to push men that are 320 and 360 pounds around. Yeah. So, when I see that with my own eyes, he might be in great shape in comparison to Jamison Hensley. Sure.
Poor Jamison.
Or, you know what I'm saying, though, right?
What did Jamison do to you?
That's true. I'll believe it when I see it, as I guess where I stand from a physical standpoint. But the mental errors, look, it's the same defense you've been playing in, bud. Maybe you went to La Tech because your ACT scores were that bad. I don't know what it is, but
you think he'd have a full grasp of the defense at this point,
exactly.
Especially OTA. It's not like they're hitting him with the most complicated stuff, I'm assuming, in OTAs.
It's come on, man. When Odafe Oweh is outperforming you from a mental perspective in his 5th year of football in his entire life, is a problem. So I'm done. I'm done with Ferguson. He can retire for, where they can cut bait. I'm done with
what if we get an announcement tomorrow? He's decided to retire, hang up the cleats. Jimmy, you talked him into it. How dare you?
He'd be crazy too, but you know what?
No,
so I'm done. I mean, I have no thoughts on him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. It looks like we keep. You go. I'm taking off.
Not. Oh, were you?
It was me and DK. It was me and DK.
Oh, geez. I'm wait.
All right. Gotcha. So King Mayazik says you talked about Cully, Hollywood, and Steve Smith. I'm not really sure what you're referencing there. I know David Cully. He definitely had a run-in with Steve Smith when Steve was a young guy at the Pro Bowl. I remember Steve went over there as a wide receiver and tried to practice with the group in the Pro Bowl, and he told, "Look, you're here as a return man, so you don't belong in this receiver group. So go over there with the special teamers." And I mean, I'm surprised Steve Smith didn't punch him in his mouth right off break, because it obviously pissed him off. He used that as well as many other things as motivation going forward. But I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to with Cully, unless there's something I missed. But yeah, that's really the only relationship I heard between Cully and Steve Smith. Unless did I miss something, Jimbo?
No, I don't know of anything either. And King, you feel free to if you want to clarify more in the comments, we'll follow up. Feel free to clarify. But I love that. Just from a personal perspective, there's nothing more. I'm as we all are. I'm plenty full of self-doubt, inside myself. But I love when other people doubt me. It's the best thing in the world, man. Don't you just love it when people say you can't do something?
Oh, of course. I feel like I'm the favorite to root against everyone in my life. Everyone always roots against me, no matter it's a board game, and that's fine. I've taken that on my shoulders, and I wear it as a badge of honor. I don't mind it one bit. I may pretend to mind it in some cases, but I mean, I love the fact that, man, this guy will take motivation anywhere. If you give him that big of a helping of motivation, I mean, I'm sure that carried him for a couple
years.
Seasons. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't let that one go at all.
No, not at all.
Love it. So it looks like we hit it on the nose. But yeah, that was that's one of the stories that Steve is going to be telling receivers till the day that he dies, right?
And how does David Cully, how did he build his reputation up so high when, if you just look at, I mean, he had a rough track record when you look at, I mean, the Kansas City year where they had no receiving touchdowns for their entire receiving core. He comes to Baltimore as the passing game coordinator. They're 30th or 31st. I don't understand exactly how this guy keeps getting such a good reputation around head coaches and GMs around the league. But hey, shout out to David Culley for bringing us 2 third-round comp picks.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it, David. Thank you.
No, for sure. So, all right, let's keep this train rolling here. I want to get into the press conference and the press conferences, unless you had some other thoughts as far, the clips and reports based on the guys out there. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up? Oh, you know what? One other thing, go ahead.
Well, there is one other thing. Rashad Bateman, I think,
what I was going to say.
Miss. Yeah, he had some muscle issues, some soreness, and
it's concerning me.
Well, it's just muscle soreness. It's not like a knee pain. This isn't Brashad Perryman here, but
their names are similar, and so it's starting to concern me. When John said it's just cautionary, I'm like, we said that for a year about Brashad Perryman. I just started getting like PTSD. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I definitely understand. I just think that they're just trying to be. I think most rookies, when they come in, they want to impress. Like T. Martin said, you got to try and throttle these guys back. And maybe he just came in trying to run 100 miles an hour and dive for balls and just kind of tweak the muscle here or there. But I mean, it's not something I'm thrilled about hearing, especially because you consider the weather was pretty darn nice over this time. So it's not like, because sometimes if it's like cold, if we had a cold snap hit Baltimore, you can have some tightness in your muscle. It was a pretty nice sunny weather, warm weather. And that's a little worrisome, but I'm not going crazy yet. Let's see what happens as we go forward.
Yeah, for sure. It may be a little like it put a slight uptick in my blood pressure for a second, and my heart rate went up a little bit. But the other thing I'll say too is that aside from him going at 1,000 miles an hour, which I totally agree with, he's the first round pick, things like that. Certainly, I don't think there's sufficient rest for guys that end the season, go to NFL prep, combine, or pro day, whatever the case may be, and then right into rookie minicamp. I think that first year going out of college into the pros can be dangerous in that I think that based on lack of rest can be susceptible to more injury. I'd like to know if there's a study on that anywhere someday, because I think it's something that needs to be looked at. And,
right.
I think that's just another case.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, they're doing training for a sprint. And then now they're being thrown into football activities. I think that certainly plays a part, and I think he'll be fine. But Skeptic Goat says, so has Julio signed with the Browns or Chiefs yet? If he signs with the daggone Brownies, I mean, if they trade for him at this point, I mean, then we're really going to have to rely on Baker Mayfield just blowing the team up.
No problem.
Holy, no worry from Jimmy there. Nope. But if he goes to the Chiefs, I mean, at this point, what's going on here? I mean, Roger might have to step in. Roger,
look, if he goes to the Chiefs, I'm no longer saving. I'm no longer going to be an Eric DaCosta apologist when it comes to cash over cap and working the cap, because the Chiefs can find a way to bring in Orlando Brown, turn around and pay him. Bring in this guy, bring in that guy. Who did they just pay? Thuney. They just paid a truckload of money. They have the highest, they're going to have the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. If I'm not mistaken, his yearly average is still $5 million more than Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be, shortly.
O.
Right, exactly. They got it. So if they're finding a way to pay all these guys, well, dang it, EDC, do whatever they're doing, bro. I'm not going to say like Skeptic Goat. I see where you're coming from. The cap isn't real. I mean, I see that to a certain, it's definitely malleable, right? Like, I'm not going to say it's not real, but certainly can be manipulated, and you can pull certain levers to make it work for you.
Right.
But I'm going to be pretty upset. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely shocked.
And honestly, he's not going to be able to technically sign with either of them because he's not a free agent. He's got to get traded.
It would be a trade. Yeah, but I think that's what he meant. I just assumed that's what he meant. What's up, J-Dub? Appreciate you coming out. But yeah, I think that he's certainly a creative GM over there in Kansas City. And I think Andrew Berry does a great job in Cleveland too. So hopefully neither one of them end up with it. That would be something that would really shake up the power structure. If the Browns got him in the AFC, there's no doubt about it. Because, man, those three receivers plus Peoples-Jones as the fourth guy, I mean, whoo, that would be scary.
Yeah, and just really quickly, that this guy really bugs me sometimes, Orlovsky. He said that the AFC is clearly a three-team race. The Chiefs, the Browns, and I think he said the Titans was the other team.
The Bills, I mean.
Oh, you know what? I think it was the Bills. I'm sorry. I think it was the Bills. But I don't know how you can declare that and just so casually leave the Ravens off that list. Number one scoring offense in the past, 2 seasons now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the number one scoring defense over the last, I think, 4.
And the most dynamic player by far. I mean, It's clear. Lamar Jackson's the most dynamic player in the NFL.
Yep.
Like, how can you just casually leave the Ravens off that list?
It's silliness. I mean, look, he
just kept going like it was a little thing, like what?
I mean, he's paid to make headlines, and
he doesn't like the Ravens.
Well, I think he's just a traditional quarterback. I mean, so he probably doesn't like Lamar's doing it a different way. I think that's what bugs him.
If I couldn't move that, I can't move that way. But like, if I wanted,
this is a guy who walked out of the back of his own end zone.
Exactly right.
So.
I'd be a little salty too, I guess.
Yeah, let's not put too much weight on how he predicts and all that stuff. I'm not letting that bother me. But I wanted to
live in legend real quick though. Orlovsky, the quarterback that don't know about the end zone out of bounds line, has zero credibility for life. For life, dude. He's got a life sentence on his credibility, baby. I love it.
Yeah, I don't, and that's fine. I like most Ravens fans, the Ravens being overlooked in a lot of ways and being that underdog rather than let them be the hunter and not the hunted. I have no problem with that. But let me tell you, Jimbo, by the way, just a reminder, we will be at the home opener.
Woo!
Screaming our heads off and tailgating beforehand.
And rocking the 410 Sports Talk swag, baby.
That's right. And better believe it, if the Chiefs come into Baltimore and they get that A whipped, then it's going to be a whole Dan's not going to be singing the same tune come Monday morning. Or is it a Monday night game? Come Tuesday morning.
It's a Sunday night game. It's a Sunday night.
So, yeah, Monday morning on Get Up, I think Dan's going to have a new power structure in that AFC. So, let's see what happens. I like Dan or safety. Yes. And one of the most boneheaded plays in the history of the league.
And he ends up on ESPN. Great.
Yeah, he's a good talker. Oh, well, that's fine. I watch Good Morning Football. I tend to watch that. And speaking of Good Morning Football,
all right,
they talked about our guy, Lamar Jackson, his press conference and his response to the questions about his upcoming contract.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned, they tried to probe for a couple answers that he wasn't willing to give up. They asked if he'd be representing himself or if he hired an agent or if his mother would be doing that. And he basically said, maybe I hired an agent, maybe. He didn't seem to want to give up too much information. He did say that his focus remains solely on chasing that Lombardi trophy like the rest of the guys, but he does expect something to be getting done, and he hopes that something will get done soon. He wants to stay in Baltimore. He wants to be a Raven for life. So, Jimmy, when do you do you think it could be coming up pretty soon? What do you think about his presser?
I think at the end of it, he kind of, without meaning to, he kind of showed his hand and he said, I don't care if it's this year or next year. And so that makes me think that they're going to push it. But the only thing is that the longer they wait, like when Josh Allen gets his deal, it's going to be like, as far as the rank goes, it's probably going to be more than Dak. Maybe not Mahomes, but he's going to be more than Watson. In my mind, right? Like that's where I see it. So if it's almost like a staring competition in my mind between them and the Bills, the Ravens and the Bills, because if they let the Bills reset the market, Lamar's like, sorry guys, this is my new floor.
Yeah.
It's just what it is, because Lamar Jackson is better than Josh Allen. Sorry, guys. He's better.
Josh Allen did close that gap a little bit last year. There's no doubt about it. Right. He played phenomenal. Got to give him credit where it's due. But I kind of am on the fence with. I'm on the same line as Lindsay Taylor in the comments. She says that something was suspicious. He was smiling a lot. He was. He looked.
I think confident. It was nerves, though.
I mean, it could be, but at this point, as many times as he's been in front of a microphone and in front of the camera, I'm not sure how much this bothers him anymore.
Well, this is first time talking about money, though.
Well, I don't know about all that. I think he's been asked questions about his contract before and what he wants to do.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that something's coming, because I agree with you. If they wait, the price only goes up unless there was something, not going some catastrophic injury or something like that, which that would be horrible. But I think that as long as he stays healthy and continues on the rise that he's going on, the price only goes up. So you might as well get him where you can get him. I mean, he's still going to be highly paid no matter when you get him. But I agree with you. If Josh Allen signs for $41 million, that's now the new floor. That's the new basement there. Yep. So You're going at least up from
Yeah,
there.
it's not even the floor, it's the basement. You're so right. That's a great.
Yeah, I mean, because he's going to say, look, did that guy win an MVP?
Unanimously?
Yeah, no. What's his record? Because I bet mine's better. I mean, that's what he would be thinking. But I agree. I think his confidence. I'm not forgetting the Eric DeCosta stuff that he was talking, fairly recently about the type of person and guy he is. Me and Lamar. So I think it's coming. I think it's coming before this season. I could be wrong, but I don't see the point in waiting unless you're still unsure. And I don't think the Ravens are unsure at this point.
So, and this is a great point by Skeptic Goat. Josh as well runs the risk of injury because he runs the ball. He was their leading rusher last year, and just like Lamar. So my question then turns. I turn to you then with this question, Glenn. Do you see Josh signing first or Lamar?
Man, that is a tough one. Man, I tell you what, once one goes, the next one's right behind him, I think.
It's like a staring contest, right? Don't you feel that way?
I really do. I think it's a coin flip at this point, which one gets paid first. It really depends on the relationship with the GM and whoever's negotiating the contract. I'm sure Josh Allen has an agent. We don't know exactly who's negotiating for Lamar, if it's himself, his mother, or some sort of representative. But that's a toss up there to me. I mean, I could see either one. You mentioned they're very similar in the sense that they both carry the ball. They do it both with their legs and their arm. And Josh Allen, is as much as he's behind Lamar in yards by a wide margin, I think he has more rushing touchdowns than even Lamar Jackson does at this point in his career. So, I think you're right. They're both kind of in a spot where they could risk injury and bet on themselves, and it could pay off, or it could go the opposite way. And Skeptic Goat says Josh has a more physical style play. There's no doubt about it. He looks to run guys over, especially when they're on that goal line. He looks to go through guys, and with his frame, he usually wins that battle because he's typically the bigger guy, whereas Lamar likes to run around you and make you miss. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I wouldn't be shocked if either one gets signed before the other, but no matter who goes first, the other's not far behind.
Yeah, we're gonna stay on the topic here. Of course, our guy Billy Seals, which we know he got one. He got one of the shirts quickly as soon as they came out. So hopefully, you enjoyed out there in Canada. And in the comment, he put a little A in there. I forgot exactly how to put it, but put a little Canada A in there at the end of his sentence. I liked it. Yeah. And so anyway, so how friendly do you think Lamar Jackson plays? EDC said the contract would be groundbreaking. So I think, and follow up with me here, Billy, I think you're referring to like how friendly will his
team friendly,
right? Like how friendly will his deal be?
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting. It's just so unique in that Lamar's a unique player. That's one component. Lamar doesn't have an agent. His mom is management as far as we know. And Josh Harris made that abundantly clear that Lamar represents himself. His mom manages his business endeavors, but he has his own representation. So that's unique. He's very young as far as a quarterback goes to be up for contract. That's unique. He's only 24 years old. And we're in a unique situation where, I mean, like you said, the longer we wait, because Baker's sitting out there too, Josh is sitting out there, it behooves us to get this deal done. So I guess my question to you, I don't know about it being groundbreaking except that what do you think is holding it up? To me, I think it's the years. I think Lamar wants 4 years and a lot of money so he can so he can double dip. That was the same thing that held up the deal with Dak. He wanted 4 years before the injury. They wanted to give him longer. And then I think his deal now is 4 years. So he got what he wanted. But I think, just my guess, that Lamar's not looking for a long-term deal.
Well, it could be. And I think maybe what he means by groundbreaking is that it's a unique type of deal, like, not necessarily matching money for dollar with Pat Mahomes, but it's such a unique deal. Nobody ever signed a deal quite like Pat Mahomes did. And there's no way he sees the life of that contract. So even if it is labeled as a 10-year deal, look at the guarantees and when they run out, and that's how long the deal really is. So even if he comes out with an 8-year deal, if you look at the guarantees and they're done after 4 or 5 years, and that's how long the deal really is, and it gets reworked after that point. So I think that, but I think you're right in the sense that it's a bunch of unique things also the success he's had. I mean, you can't do much more than what this guy has done. The only other player who's really been able to surpass what he's done in the similar amount of time has been Pat Mahomes. He's the only guy, and that's a pretty darn short list. Yeah, exactly. So it's just such a unique situation. But I also I think is unique, and I want to refer back to Hollywood's press conference. He talked about all they talk about is winning a Super Bowl, and he didn't look like he was BSing, feeding a lot. Like neither one of these guys look like they're the BSing type, like the coach speak and that. Like it doesn't seem like either one of them guys are like that. I think they both want to win so bad, and Lamar might want to win more than anyone I've ever seen at that position. Like this guy wants to win so bad that I think there's a shot that he could take a little bit less than what most are expecting. And now look, no matter what, the man is going to be very well paid. It's not like they're going to ever really shortchange him, but I could see a fact that he might take a little bit less than what the market dictates or what he might deserve with all his abundant success because of the fact that he does have a lot of off the field ventures that bring him a lot of cash, and the fact that he wants to make sure that the team remains cap flexible and that they can compete going forward. He doesn't want to have so much money invested in just one position, even if it is, I think, his position, because he wants to win. He doesn't want to be a highly paid guy on a losing team. Now, with his talents, I don't think there's ever going to be a chance where they're going to be a total dud of a team, even if you do have to pay him a ton of money. But I would not be shocked at all if he says, you know what, I know I'm worth this, but I'd be willing to accept a couple dollars less if that means Hollywood can stay around. If that means my man Mark Andrews can stay around. If that means Bradley Bozeman, who I now love at I think that there's a chance he could be a little more friendly than some people are saying. Go after all the money you can. You only live once. You only have this window of opportunity to make that kind of money once. I'm not so sure if he's going to, really take the Ravens to the bank.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And I just want to comment on this really quick. Nana Rave mentioned that, not to downplay Lamar's mother. And honestly, we weren't. And then Josh Harris made it clear to us on one of our episodes, or I can't remember if it was on air or not, but he just said, there's a distinction there that Lamar makes very clear. And even his mom, that she's not interested in getting in those conversations. She manages his business, but doesn't represent him in those meetings. And so actually people corrected us and obviously a source very close to Lamar Jackson and Josh, his personal quarterback coach. So it's not that, we're downplaying her involvement. I'm sure he has those conversations with him, like you said. But certainly he wants it known that he's his own man, stands on his own 2 feet, and he's representing himself. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to comment on that just to provide some clarity there to you, Nana. But man, yeah, once again, it's like you said, I think we've kind of covered all of it, but it's going to be a unique deal.
And either way, it's not going to change his neighborhood. Like he's going to be he's going to have a monster contract. He's going to be very well taken care of for generations. And this is just the first, I think, of multiple contracts he'll hit in the NFL. And hopefully he does so in Baltimore.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to mention, DK, if you don't mind helping us out here, I saw that the cap, there's a projected cap number, I think, for 2022, and I think it's in the 200,000s.
200 millions, you mean?
Or sorry, geez whiz, not 200,000s. That'd be a problem for a lot of these guys. They'd be changing their neighborhood, that's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah, but I think it was slightly over 200 million if you can get that number, because maybe if the deal is signed now, it's going to look astronomical to us, but Eric probably knows, of course, much more than us as far as what those projections are going to be, barring another pandemic, that, he feels pretty confident in the cap going up exponently. So who knows?
And let me just remind, because I see Nana says, are any other quarterbacks taking team-friendly deals? There's one that I can think of, and it's the one that keeps winning, and that's Tom Brady, because no quarterback has won the Super Bowl when they consume 20% of their cap or more.
Not a one. In
the last 25 years. Not one. And you can look at the list of the highest paid quarterbacks. They're all 20% of at least of their cap, and none of them have won. There's only one who's won, and that's Tom Brady, who takes team-friendly deals. Now, he's benefited the fact that he's played a million years, made a lot of money, and his wife makes even more than he does. So I understand that's also a unique situation, but it's just, if you just look at the data, if one player takes up 20% or more of your cap, they do not win the Super Bowl. It's just, the stats don't lie.
Yeah. And I would also say, there you go. So 208 million is thanks, Daniel. The projected salary cap. So yeah, like I said, I mean, it might look astronomical as it stands right now, but looking forward, because Lamar still has his 5th year that's already been agreed upon. So next year, whatever agreement they come to is not really going to impact his cap hit next year. It's going to be from then on. But the other thing too, you brought up Tom, but also I think it's fair to say that he's going to be taking up a lot of the cap, but I think that Mahomes' deal is pretty team friendly in the flexibility that it allows the Chiefs to have. Wouldn't you say so as well? Now, obviously, Tom, the king of team friendly deals, right? He's like the Tim Duncan as far as financially.
He got paid $25 million last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, look, Timmy was always able to have a solid team around him because pay me $1 pop, pay me $2 pop, I'm playing ball, right? Like that's what it was for Tim Duncan. And I feel like Tom Brady has a little bit of that, but I do think that that Mahomes' deal certainly provides them at least some flexibility. So I'm hoping that there's that, if they're not going full Tom Brady on the deal with Lamar, which I don't expect, that we get flexibility, not like the Cowboys who now have no flexibility in the layout of that deal that Dak has.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We're not expecting, or nor do we want Lamar to take any type of a ridiculous pay cut. We just are hopeful that however they structure the deal, that there's flexibility there, because we don't want to have a case where nobody else, you end up with a bunch of nobodies across the roster.
Right.
And if you don't hit on every draft, then you end up not with a team that just can't compete with the big boys.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But what else did you take away from the pressers, Glenn? What other thoughts or notes did you take away from them?
Let's see here. So, I mean, what I think was crazy is how short all of them were. I mean, they were all like 2 to 8 minutes. I mean,
it was hot. They were ready to get back in that AC, baby.
Yeah, they weren't doing a lot of talking. Let's see. Chuck Clark didn't really say a ton when I was listening to what he said.
Did you see he watched, and Ryan Mink followed up on this. He watched all of the rookie mini camp.
Crazy.
All of it.
Crazy. Yes, I think that's awesome. You brought that up because I thought about it at the time, but it did just slip my mind. Yeah, this guy, I mean, talk about a film junkie. This guy pulls up and watches the rookie mini camp from just a couple weeks ago after the draft, just to see how guys are moving, see how they're picking up stuff. This guy watches film like crazy, and that's the reason he's on this team and making the money he's made, because of the fact that he's got that dedication. So, yeah, shout out to Chuck. Not a lot of energy from Chuck. He's a pretty even-keeled guy. We didn't see a lot of passion from him, but
apparently Earl Thomas brings it out in him.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, as long as he brings the passion on the field, that's all we want. Let's see if there's any. Lamar had a couple bombs that he hit. I was watching him throw the ball. He had a nice tight spiral. They weren't wobbling as much, too much. So I was liking what I was seeing from Lamar. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
He looks strong, looks powerful. We talked about that on Tuesday, but certainly looks powerful.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I don't really see. There wasn't a ton from the pressers, honest. Other than the fact that, like you mentioned, I thought Hollywood looked a little thicker too.
I was gonna say, one of the things I really liked about what Hollywood said is he talked about, realizing that football is just like any other job. It's a 9 to 5. So every single day, he said, I've got to be working on, I've got to have it lined up to know what I'm working on the next day to get better to perform on Sundays. Right. And they asked him about his, physical routine, his workout routine and stuff like that. I thought he was going to give a shout out to old Coach Harper there.
That would have been cool.
But he might be wanting to keep him under wraps for a little bit, but certainly, I thought about that, and he's got plenty of videos and pictures at the slaughterhouse, at coach's spot. And so certainly Hollywood, to me, I'm really happy with his dedication to his craft, his love for the game, and his willingness and maturity in his approach to it.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I was a little nervous last year about the tweet, the Soldier tweet, where, he wasn't being used. And obviously the proximity to his cousin, who, forget the off the field things, but on the field can be a little bit of a diva. And so that made me a little concerned, but I don't have any of those concerns anymore with Hollywood. I was really impressed by his presser in the approach he has to the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's it's exciting to see what he could do this year, because I think he's one of the guys that's truly going to benefit from these new coaches, a full offseason program, and obviously the relationship with Lamar does not hurt. I mean, anyone who knows if you're close with your quarterback, they tend to throw you the ball more, and I don't think you'll find a closer pair of quarterback wide receiver anywhere in the league. So
now, really quickly, Glenn, though, because there's a little bit of a debate going on in the chat here that I want to address in regards to Lamar's deal. Mm-hmm. And you brought up the Tom Brady thing, and I think people have kind of taken it and carried it. But this is a tightrope situation, because we want all parties to be, the Ravens, and we want all parties to be happy.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, Lamar just has to decide, because like you said, Glenn, the data is what the data is. So Lamar has to decide if Eric DeCosta, Lamar has the leverage. I think King said that. He absolutely does. And Eric readily recognizes that. Look, Lamar, if you want to be the highest paid quarterback with the most guaranteed this, that, and the other, I think the Ravens will have to bend to that. Right? Like they will and
they'd rather have that be the biggest problem than not having a franchise quarterback.
Right. Absolutely. And Eric's made that abundantly clear, but I'm sure he's also said, look, we've been down this road before, and this is what Joe had to work with after that. I think that's a fair thing to say. It's not like an intimidation thing, but it's more of a, hey, I care about you and your career. Tell me what you want out of it, because you only get one shot in the league, kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the last thing you want is you making $40 million and have no one in front of you and nobody to throw to.
Right. I mean, that's the question.
It's just reality. You know what I mean? So it's not that we're saying
there's a pie, right?
Right.
How much of that pie are you giving to one guy? Because and then how much is left for the rest of the team? Now, and I just wonder, Nana, I know you're really passionate about this, and we love you for your passion. But my only question is, at what point does it end? Like what is your limit, Nana? Because it seems like you want him to get all the monies. And then does that mean you don't are you not as big of a fan of those other guys on the team? I mean, are you only a Lamar fan? Or are you a Ravens? Because
she's a Ravens fan. We know that.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is that people seem to want Lamar to get all the money. I mean,
right.
That's fine, but that means you're going to watch a lot of guys you also root for walk out the door because there's not enough piece of that pie left. So it's not like there's an unlimited supply of money. If it was, then Bisciotti would pay them all.
Yeah. But think about the deals.
So what if Lamar comes in and says, "I want $60 million a year"? I mean, is that what's the limit? There has to be a limit.
Lamar's limit. Ooh.
Right, but
that's scary
because what is say? I want $60 million. I mean,
right. Because think about the transactions that hurt after we had to deal with Joe's deal. You remember they asked Bolden to take a cut.
Mm-hmm.
That hurt.
Yeah,
and I get it. He didn't want to take a cut. He was at the point in his career he's on the back nine. I get it. You think about the Torrey Smith move.
Yep.
Those things hurt. They hurt, man. And they hurt Joe most of all.
Yeah.
I mean, when did Joe have he had a slight resurgence with Kubiak, right? That was on his big deal, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
But other than that was the only blip of validity that Joe Flacco had as a contending quarterback after he got paid. Now, I'm not comparing Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson because, frankly, Lamar Jackson could throw to no one and still be successful if he had any semblance of a run game because he's such a threat in the run game. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's about balancing Lamar, his economic needs, his career needs. That's a fine balance. And honestly, he's in control of that more than Eric DeCosta.
Mm-hmm.
Much more in control of that. So it's just about, Lamar being happy with what he has from a team standpoint and a money standpoint. Lamar has every right to say, look, what have the Ravens surrounded me with? I can't take a discount because I can't trust them to surround me with anything from an offensive standpoint. But I think all Eric DeCosta has done, first of all, that's a me first attitude. And I don't think that's Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Second of all Eric DeCosta has done since drafting Lamar Jackson is draft the most wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah. And build the entire team around him from a coaching standpoint, a personnel standpoint. Yeah. Now, I mean, it's just either way, he's not going to get shortchanged. We know that. It's just a matter of how high on the list he's going to rank because he's definitely not going to get shortchanged. It's just not how the Ravens do business. And so, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. But if we could, I do have one comment I want to talk about, a little bit of Odafe.
I'm glad, because I was going to go there. Good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, because it looks like they're throwing the kitchen sink at this guy. They're letting him. They're giving him all the information, and they're going to see what happens and how much he can absorb of it. And what that tells me is that they're preparing to really lean on him and have to get a lot out of him. I mean, so does that make you think that when you hear that they're giving him everything, they're throwing the whole scheme at him as much as they can. They're trying to get and see what they got with this guy. Does that make you think that they're any less likely to bring in any more depth or any more help at the outside linebacker position?
I don't know. I think depth they need, whether he takes off, like a rocket or not, depth they need. So I think that signings will be had because of the need for depth. But this is what I got from that, is that he might be the first or second most important rookie in this rookie class. I think I would put him first only because of lack of depth at the position, where normally I would, I'm an O-line guy, so Ben Cleveland would be my number one, but we've got viable options there that have played significant snaps in the NFL, like a Powers, and obviously Bredesen at least has had a year in the league, and even a Tyree Phillips, like if we needed to in a pinch at left guard, where we're putting a lot of we're putting a lot of chips on the table for Odafe Oweh, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, he is clear cut the most important rookie for us to have success now.
Yeah.
So that's what I took from that. Like, I don't know where I stand as far as my confidence in that. It makes me a little concerned because, I was as it stands right now, I'm team skeptic. Mm-hmm. But I think that's absolutely the case. What do you think about that thought? Do you think he's probably the most important draft pick as far as needed, immediate impact for the Ravens as it stands right now?
No doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, I think you're right in comparing Cleveland, because if Cleveland's the left guard, we need him to play well. But there's just no doubt how thin the outside linebacker position is, especially from a pass rush standpoint. I mean, we love what Bowser brings, but he's not a guy that you're expecting to go out and get double-digit sacks or even come close to that. I mean, I think if he got 6 or 7, we'd be happy with that type of production from Bowser. Well, I mean, who do you look at in the outside linebacker position as a guy that can get more than 7 sacks?
Yeah, or just be disruptive in a high volume, like not in spots, not in situations, but be in the backfield. No matter the context, no matter the play, right? Like he can be, even if it's not the sack, like McPhee, we can count on in spots, right? Certain scenarios. Tyus is not going to get home based on what we've seen. He's not relatively disruptive in the backfield. So who is it, right? Like we
got one guy.
Yeah.
We got one guy. So I think you're 100% right. It's a lot on his shoulders. Now the media, the coaches are going to do as much as they can to minimize that. And they've already started that, in a little bit by saying that the sack was, it's overrated and this, that, because they know, I think they know deep down how much is already on Odafe's shoulders. And so I think they're going to try and minimize that type of pressure, because they don't want, to add even more pressure to this guy than what he's already having to deal with, being a number, a first round pick and being in a room that is just, I mean, he's looking around. He's got to be thinking, who's going to get to the passer? It's got to be him, or it's going to be schemed from Wink sending more than you can block. I mean, that's the only 2 ways I see them getting many sacks. I mean, every now and then we'll get one from this guy, one from that guy. But as far as consistency, it's Oweh and then it's Wink Martindale drawing up some blitz packages. So
yeah, man. Daniel, what do you think? Is there any other guy that you see as more important in this draft class? Let us know as well, and you guys as well in the chat. But Daniel, if we're missing someone,
now I see Hayes. They're thinking that Dalen might be able to make some noise there.
But I tell you what, if you go watch our video with our guy Klaus from Cooper or Klaus, one of the two, maybe it was Cooper Klaus. I don't know, but we have
Klaus, yeah.
Yeah, we have a video of a guy that is analytics podcast for the Notre Dame football team. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned that his ceiling is pretty much a rotational player. That's what he sees. Yeah. Heck of a guy, heck of a teammate, but at best a rotational guy. So I don't know how much
exceeded expectations plenty in the past, but
you're absolutely right.
I mean, I think you're right. That guy's an analytic guy, and that's he only talks in analytics. And if you just go by the numbers, you're right. He's a rotational piece who brings a lot to the locker room. He's a positive influence, and and brings a lot to the community, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there and get you double-digit sacks. He's just not.
Yeah.
So unless he changes that drastically, then, he's going to be an okay player, but he's not Zadarius Smith, in his prime. So,
and then are there going to be, do you think that there'll be another round of cuts post June 1st? Based on the new league starting and things like that,
and also they got a good look at their rookies.
Yeah,
and they might think, wow, we can cut some bait over here in this expensive veteran because we see that we got a decent player, in the rookie that's going to take his spot. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I still think they make a move there and they add someone after that June 1 deadline. It's just a matter of who and what level. Is it a depth guy or is it a guy that they bring in and expect to be a starter?
Yeah, it does make me nervous.
Okay, DK, he's curious about Brandon Stevens. I think he's going to be a big hitter. I think Brandon Stevens could end up being, certainly if Miles Boykin's moved, he's going to play a heavy role in special teams because I think right now Miles Boykin is heavily used in that category. And I think Brandon Stevens as a gunner would be absolutely awesome to watch because he has, his ability to close and make tackles is impressive, and certainly he'd be asked to do so on special teams. But as far as his involvement on the defensive side, it's going to be interesting to see how much he can pick up the game because he's relatively new to the position playing DB, and then also which positions he playing. Is he playing some nickel? Is he playing some safety? Is he taking over for CoCap in that dime role that we always saw from Levine coming in? He could absolutely be a guy who makes noise because he's so physically talented. It's just a matter of how he picks up the playbook.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because the one thing I think that's undeniable, at least if you take a look at his stats, is that he has a nose for the football.
Mm-hmm.
And so how you deploy that properly while you continue to help him progress as a player is going to be really interesting moving forward. I would say he's definitely the wild card of this draft. He has a lot of volatility in what he can end up being as a player when he rounds out, finds a position, finds out what works best for him and things like that. It's definitely going to be interesting. But I am definitely nervous about our pass rush situation. Now, I have heard there's some reports that the Ravens are still favorites to land Justin Houston.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep. It's just after that June 1, right?
Yeah, but I don't know how that would make a difference only because there's no dead money considerations or anything like that. I think after
what are they waiting on?
Yeah, you know what I mean? But, once again, it's like a staring competition. The longer he waits, the less the Ravens get to offer him, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, he might have more leverage because the Ravens could come back and say, hey, we'll give you this. And he can say, no, that means that you were looking at your rookies and you don't believe in them.
That's a good point.
I need a couple more dollars.
That's it. And then, honestly, he could have the Colts and the Ravens, bidding against each other. And we know that usually doesn't bode well for the Ravens.
Yeah. Oh man, it's going to be really interesting for sure. I can't wait to see what happens moving forward.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. So, stay tuned with us. We'll keep you up to date on all your Ravens news. Let me give a couple shout outs. J-Dub, thanks for making it.
Really quickly, Glenn. And one of the things I want to do off the cuff here before we do shout outs is I want to do at the end of the show tidbits of knowledge, tidbits of inspiration from our guy that runs the Sticks, Daniel Kunimoto. So I want him to come in real quick and give a couple takes, spit some knowledge, drop a verse. All right. That's right. That's a Hamilton quote. That's right. What's up, man? So give us a something that maybe we overlooked or some insightful. Give us an insight, man. Drop some knowledge here.
All right. Here's what I'm thinking. So I've really been honing in on the Lamar contract situation. And actually, I was going to suggest to Jimmy here that might put together a little article for the Patreons out there.
Nice.
But,
all right.
Yeah, so I'm really think that it's going to take some time and for this contract to materialize, basically because Lamar said it himself. He's focused on football, and when you represent yourself, it's hard to focus on both coming up with a contract that makes the most sense for you and your team and all that, and playing football at your highest level. So, and I believe Lamar when he says he's focused on football. It seems like he talked to EDC like a month ago or something on the specifics. And if you talk a month ago and you're trying to grind out a contract, it's not a one day thing. So I think it's going to take some time. And my my prediction is really that the other quarterbacks in that same draft class are going to get signed first. And then I think Lamar's thinking that it's just going to benefit him just because, you guys were talking about earlier, the price is only going up. And, if you're a player, right, you're going to bet on yourself. You think like, all right, technically there's an injury risk to that. But, if you think, hey, I'm going to be playing, the injury risk is not that big of a deal, then you're thinking, I'll sign after these guys, wait till they get, set the benchmark, and then I'll get my contract in and I'll be at the top. So I'm thinking that that's Lamar's thinking, especially as you represent yourself. When you have an agent, that agent tries to kind of bring you back down to earth and helps you say, hey, look, if you get hurt, then none of that is a discussion. So, I was really interested in his presser when he said, we'll see. Maybe I might have maybe I'll have some representation or maybe not. I'm thinking that he's hearing voices from different places, and this whole idea of if you don't have an agent, you can keep your money is actually, I think it's a fallacy. I mean, I work with agents too, not necessarily as a football player, but they bring their own specialty to it. So if the value that they have is raking in extra money, that's more than the compensation that you're going to end up paying them, then you more than justify the work that you do. So, I think it's a continuingly interesting situation, but I do think it's going to take some time. And I think Lamar's probably willing to bet on himself, which means he's going to push it off.
Now, do you think that there is mutual respect as much as there seems to be publicly and trust? So between Eric and EDC, in that Lamar trusts that if it doesn't get done now, it's, is there like a handshake? Look, if we don't get this done now, I know you don't have an agent. We're going to push this out and get this done next year. Or do you think it's a little bit postulating? Do you think that trust is real?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Ravens, I mean, they love Lamar. So it's a done deal. The question is, how much does EDC kind of, if Lamar's not represented by an agent, how much does he work into the deal? That's not necessarily, it doesn't hurt him as a valued player, but it does make things a little bit more team friendly. It's when you're doing contracts, it's the details. The details are what matter. And so, and when you're representing yourself and you don't really quite understand the impact of those details, for instance, like how much, if you get paid on incentive versus, straight salary or signing bonus, like what are the actual differences in terms of the longevity of your career, the term, how long it is, when you get to reset your contract, options, those are all important things that you got to have your head around in order to do a good deal. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, my guess is Lamar's starting to think that way too, as he's starting to, I'm sure, get chimed in from, his mom and other people around the league, like, hey, it's a great idea to have representation, especially when you got a deal at your massive size that you're about to sign.
Right. Any chance you think that the Players Association might be in his ear at all, saying, look, you continue to raise that bar for future players? You think they could have an influence?
I think that's also a pretty strong consideration, because if he doesn't have representation and his contract goes askew, then he sets, a different bar for players at his caliber too. So I'm sure there's some of that, he's hearing some voices from the Players Association saying, hey, this is a good idea. You're helping other players out also, by sticking with the line, finding an agent that works out for you, so it helps out the league as well. So I'm sure there's also some of that.
Yeah, and our guy Evan, agent that we've had on a couple times, has mentioned, obviously he's an agent, so that's his job. But he really has articulated, similar to the way you are, DK, and in the importance of an agent in the details of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the devil's in the details is the saying, right? So that's really where it's at.
Go ahead. So one idea I was going to throw out there was that one interesting thing would be, so everyone's talking about how much of the salary cap that you end up taking. I don't know if anyone's really considered a contract that has to do with the percentage of the salary cap. So as it grows, you get paid more, but you have to kind of tie your own contract with the development of the league.
Yeah, so that's what I thought that they should do to quarterbacks. Like, this is your max. You can get this dedication,
and only quarterbacks.
Right, only quarterbacks.
Potentially only quarterbacks. Yeah, right. So, but then that way you protect yourself against that whole idea of that I can't pay the other guys enough because you're only taking a certain amount of the salary cap, no matter how, where it goes, up or down. I mean, the only reason why it would go down is because of a situation like this past year. But I think that would be a very interesting case, because then you're saying I'm willing to be team friendly. I'm leaving enough space for us to sign other guys, but I do want my salary to go up each year.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I wonder if they could structure a deal like that that's tied to percentage of cap, because I think that's a good point. We don't really know exactly how high the cap is going to be in 5 years. I mean, it could be astronomical. And I think, a player like Lamar might say, well, do I want to sign a contract now that locks me into a salary 4 years from now when I don't know what the cap's going to be 4 years from now? Maybe I'd be severely underpaid at that point. So that's a very good point. And also, we've seen the Ravens make deals in season. We saw Ronnie Stanley, Marlon Humphrey both sign extensions mid-season. Any chance, DK, that you think Lamar could get that done in season, or you think when you say push it off, you think they push it off till next offseason?
Well, I mean, it would have to be until next offseason if he's the one who's managing that deal. So if he had an agent, that agent could continue to work while he's playing. But I mean, I can't imagine someone who'd be so focused that, you're working your butt off in practice, trying to improve and focus on the next opponent. I mean, it's the same issue that like coaches have, or, when they're getting hired during the playoffs. Like, how can you backfire? It's hard to do both at the same time. Yeah. So I imagine if he's representing himself, that's the way it's got to be.
Right. Yeah, man, it's going to be so interesting. That was really fun. And make sure you guys that are patrons go check out this. Daniel has committed himself to this article, and I'm excited to see it. And
that brought a whole new light to it. DK,
that's right.
DK, man,
the fire, dude. My
getting
goodness.
Love in the comments. Appreciate it. I never even thought about the percentage of.
I love that.
That. Talk about creativity. That's the type of creativity you need if you're a GM going forward with these contracts of quarterbacks.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't patrons right now, make sure you go check it out, because DK is going to be contributing. So it's going to be awesome. And we had an absolute blast tonight. Hopefully you guys did as well. Shout out to DK, who's on the sticks, doing his thing tonight. I know that Glenn, we wanted to get some shout outs. And then just last thing before we do, I put it in the chat a couple times, but since we have a lot of you guys in here right now, and if you were coming in and out, notice that like Tanja and a couple other frequent viewers of the show hopped in a little late. We got the swag out. I'm going to throw it in the chat one more time. Feel free to go check it out. And then also our Newsbreak partnership, that unique download link. You guys can follow us there as well. I'll have that in the chat as well while Glenn's doing the shout outs.
Yeah, absolutely. Tanja Bowman, thanks for coming out. Billy Seals, appreciate you as always. Lindsey Taylor, thanks again for coming out and showing some love in the comments. J-Dub, riding with us all the way. Don C, appreciate you, man. Always, pumping up the like button and giving us love in the chats. We appreciate you. Wesley Slemp, thanks again. Always coming out with us. Nana, of course, we love you, Nana. Rave, thanks for always being there with us. We appreciate you so much. Jimmy Kidwell, thanks. King of Pugo, keeping us straight. Living Legend had us laughing earlier with Inches Boykin. We might have to put that on a T-shirt if especially if Boykin's gone. We're definitely putting him on.
We can't troll him while he's on a team, the team, right? But once he's gone, sure.
Sorry. And Troy always making tons of sense in the chat and keeping us straight as well. Apparently you need a haircut, Jimbo, and they think that your hat is covering it, and
it's true. If I can. It's getting long again. It's not that bad. It's not as long as it nearly was.
Yeah, it was crazy. James says you look like a CEO of a tech startup in Silicon Valley. Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I wouldn't be mad about that either. Bradley Winterling, appreciate you coming out. Let's see if I'm missing it. Dewan, appreciate you.
That's all it is.
Dave Nance. David Nance. Is this the Dave Nance that saw us in Baltimore? If that's the case, I see him in the chat. We appreciate you as well. And then Brennick Brixon 5200, appreciate you. You're always in here with us. But that's it for us tonight. But we'll be back soon, and we'll talk then.
See ya.